Every year, millions of Americans carry something in their pocket or on their belt, hoping they'll never have to use it. That's the logic behind everyday carry, preparing for the worst-case scenario before it ever happens. The problem is that many people choose their gear based on marketing or opinions, rather than what actually works for their situation. The reality is, there's no universal best everyday carry setup. The right choice depends on your state's laws, your daily routine, and whether you're willing to train with the tools you carry. Even so, experienced instructors and self-defense experts consistently rank certain tools above others for good reasons. Let's break down what actually matters, starting with the item most people overlook completely. The foundation nobody talks about: awareness and avoidance. Before any object goes in a pocket or on a belt, every serious self-defense instructor will tell you the same uncomfortable truth. The single most effective everyday carry item is the one that keeps you out of the situation entirely. Situational awareness, simply noticing your surroundings, watching exits, clocking who's near you in a parking lot, isn't a product you can buy, which is exactly why it gets skipped over in favor of talking about hardware. But every study on violent encounters points the same direction. The person who saw trouble coming and moved away from it had a dramatically better outcome than the person who had to fight their way out of it, no matter how well armed they were. This matters for the rest of this list, because every tool below only becomes relevant once avoidance has already failed. Nothing you carry replaces paying attention. A quality flashlight. This sounds like an odd place to start a video about deadly everyday carry. But ask any police trainer and they'll tell you a bright tactical flashlight is one of the most underrated tools in the entire conversation. A powerful light disorients an attacker, illuminates a threat before you have to make a split-second decision about it, and lets you positively identify who or what you're dealing with in the dark, which matters enormously both legally and morally. A lot of self-defense encounters get decided in the half-second before physical contact, and a flashlight is one of the only tools on this list you can legally use anywhere in the country without a permit, and can deploy without any real ambiguity about your intent. Pepper spray and OC devices. For a huge percentage of Americans, pepper spray is the actual first line of everyday carry, and for good reason. It's legal in nearly every state, requires no license, works at a distance that keeps you out of an attacker's reach, and is genuinely effective at incapacitating someone without a lasting injury on either side. Modern OC formulations, especially ones with a UV marking dye that helps identify an attacker afterward, are dramatically more advanced than the pepper spray your parents might have carried. The catch, and it's a real one, is that pepper spray is weather and wind dependent, has a limited number of uses per canister, and is genuinely useless if it's buried at the bottom of a bag instead of in a pocket or clipped somewhere accessible. The instructors who take this seriously all say the same thing. The pepper spray you actually practice drawing under stress beats the more expensive one sitting in a drawer. The folding knife. A quality folding knife is probably the most universally carried self-defense tool in the country, and also one of the most misunderstood. For the vast majority of people, a pocket knife is first and foremost a utility tool. It's there for opening packages, cutting rope, slicing zip ties, or handling the dozens of small tasks that come up throughout an ordinary day. That's honestly the right mindset to have. While a knife can certainly be used in self-defense, under extreme circumstances, it is an extraordinarily serious weapon. Unlike pepper spray, which creates distance, or a firearm, which can be effective from farther away, a knife is a contact-range tool that almost always requires an incredibly close and dangerous confrontation. Any encounter involving an edged weapon carries an exceptionally high risk of severe injury for everyone involved, making it one of the least forgiving options in a violent situation. Because of that, using a knife defensively carries enormous legal and personal consequences that many casual carriers have never fully considered. Instructors who specialize in edged weapon training often point out that the knife which matters most isn't necessarily the biggest, the most expensive, or the one with the most aggressive-looking blade. Instead, they emphasize reliability, simplicity, and accessibility. A knife that's difficult to draw, awkward to open, or unreliable under stress may not be useful when seconds matter. If someone chooses to carry a folding knife, they generally recommend selecting one that can be deployed quickly and safely, with a secure grip and a design that functions consistently. In close-quarters emergencies, fine motor skills tend to deteriorate under adrenaline, so simple, dependable equipment becomes far more valuable than flashy features or oversized blades. Another factor that many people overlook is the legal landscape surrounding knife ownership and carry. State and local laws governing blade length, opening mechanisms, locking systems, concealed carry, and prohibited locations vary enormously across the country. A knife that's perfectly legal to own and carry in one state may be heavily restricted, or even illegal, in another. Crossing a state line without understanding those differences can expose someone to serious criminal penalties. Before carrying any knife for everyday use, it's worth taking the time to understand not only how to use it safely and responsibly, but also the specific laws that apply where you live and wherever you plan to travel. The tourniquet. Almost nobody puts this on an everyday carry list, and that's arguably one of the biggest mistakes in this entire video. Trauma medicine has fundamentally changed the way many self-defense instructors think about EDC over the last decade, largely because of lessons learned treating serious injuries in combat zones, and later applying those same principles to civilian emergencies. The conclusion that has filtered down to responsible civilian carry is surprisingly straightforward. The thing most likely to kill you or someone standing nearby after a violent encounter, whether it's a knife attack, a gunshot wound, a workplace accident, or even a high-speed car crash, is often uncontrolled bleeding, not the initial injury itself. The first few minutes after a traumatic injury are frequently the most critical, and having the right medical equipment immediately available can dramatically improve the chances of survival while waiting for professional help to arrive. A commercial tourniquet designed and rated for civilian use takes up very little pocket or bag space, weighs almost nothing, and can make the difference between someone walking away from a life-threatening situation and someone bleeding out before emergency responders ever reach the scene. Unlike many items marketed as everyday carry essentials, a tourniquet has a clear, well-documented purpose, backed by years of emergency medicine experience. It's not about looking tactical or preparing for unlikely scenarios. It's about having a simple tool that addresses one of the most preventable causes of death after severe trauma. What's especially revealing is who actually chooses to carry one every day. The people who routinely deal with worst-case scenarios, working paramedics, combat medics, trauma surgeons, emergency room physicians, and many experienced first responders, are often far more likely to carry a tourniquet than the average person who owns other defensive equipment. That difference between what experienced professionals consistently carry and what is most heavily advertised to consumers says something important about where hype and reality begin to separate. When the people who spend their careers responding to real emergencies prioritize medical gear alongside everything else, it's a reminder that being prepared isn't just about stopping a threat. It's also about being ready to save a life after the danger has passed. The concealed firearm. For a huge number of Americans, a legally carried concealed firearm is the centerpiece of their everyday carry setup. And it's also the tool that comes with the most responsibility, the most training requirement, and the most legal complexity of anything on this list. A firearm offers a level of stopping power and standoff distance that nothing else here can match, which is exactly why it's taken so seriously by the people who actually carry one professionally. But here's the uncomfortable truth that gets buried under gun store marketing. Owning a firearm and being armed are two very different things. A concealed carry permit doesn't make someone competent under stress, and multiple studies of actual defensive gun uses show that people who've never trained beyond the state-mandated minimum consistently perform worse in a real encounter than people who train regularly with the exact gun, holster, and ammunition they actually carry. The instructors who take this seriously all converge on the same point. Your carry gun is only as good as your actual proficiency with drawing, presenting, and shooting it under real stress, not on a calm indoor range on a Tuesday afternoon. Caliber debates, gun model debates, and capacity debates dominate the online conversation, but almost every serious trainer will tell you those arguments matter far less than most people assume. A reliable, well-maintained handgun in a caliber you can control, carried consistently and trained with regularly, will outperform a better gun that sits in a drawer because it's uncomfortable to carry every day. The trauma kit and the legal reality. Beyond the individual tools, the instructors who spend the most time thinking seriously about personal safety almost always come back to 2 points that rarely receive as much attention as they deserve. First is the importance of a basic trauma kit. A quality tourniquet is an excellent starting point, but it should be paired with gauze, a chest seal, medical gloves, and, ideally, some basic first aid training. Violent encounters can produce life-threatening injuries in seconds, and the ability to control severe bleeding or stabilize someone until emergency responders arrive can be every bit as important as whatever tool was used to stop the immediate threat. In many real-world emergencies, medical preparedness ends up saving more lives than any defensive tool ever will. Second, and this is the point almost nobody wants to hear, is that every single item on this list comes with significant legal responsibility. Self-defense laws vary dramatically from state to state, and in some cases, even from one city or county to another. Standards governing the use of force, when deadly force is legally justified, whether there is a duty to retreat, and how defensive tools may be carried or deployed can all differ substantially depending on where you live. Carrying pepper spray, a stun device, a knife, or any other defensive tool without understanding your state's specific laws regarding possession, concealment, and justified use can create serious legal consequences. In many situations, a lack of legal knowledge can end up being more damaging to your future than not carrying a defensive tool at all. Responsible self-defense means not only choosing the right equipment, but also understanding the laws, limitations, and responsibilities that come with carrying it. The watchdog take. Here's what actually separates a smart, everyday carry setup from an expensive collection of gear gathering dust in a drawer. It was never about buying the single, deadliest item on the shelf. Every serious instructor interviewed on this topic converges on the same uncomfortable point. The tool that matters is the one you actually carry consistently, have genuinely trained with under realistic stress, and understand the legal boundaries of well enough to use correctly in the 2 or 3 seconds you'll actually have to decide. That's a much less exciting answer than buy this gun or carry this knife. And it's exactly why it gets buried under flashier marketing. A $400 handgun you've fired twice at an indoor range is a worse everyday carry choice than a cheaper one you've put 500 rounds through and can draw from concealment without thinking about it. A $12 tourniquet that's actually in your pocket beats a $1,000 setup that's sitting at home because it was too bulky to carry today. The gear on this list isn't ranked by which one sounds the most intimidating in a video title. It's ranked by what actually keeps people alive. And the honest answer, every single time, comes down to training, consistency, and understanding the legal weight of what you're carrying before you ever need it, not the size of the number stamped on the side of the box.